nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast about music where a group of friends gather together to share albums with each other. An album at a time, taking turns, nice little quorum. We got gathered here. It's like a little book club for music. It's a fun time, had by all. I'm Petey Raven, Man Window Plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew, my quorum, as it were. We've got Brett.
Gogurt, lose the spoon.
Yes. We've got Drew.
Squad.
Yes. And we've got David.
He's the scat man.
John?
Yes.
Crothers.
Yes. We're here to talk about music.
That's an album we should do sometime.
Scatman Carruthers or Scatman John?
Scatman John.
One.
Yes.
One of them was in The Shining.
John Carruthers.
And not the one I wish.
But yeah, we're talking about. We're not talking about the album. We're talking about this album. This album is the album provided by Drew this week. Drew, what are you talking about? What do you got for us this week?
What you talking about? So I decided that I wanted to listen to a lot of weird jazz. Being creeped out. I wanted to listen to some weird jazz, and so I went to my brain. I was like, do I want to have just bass on the album, or do I want to have other musicians on the album? And I decided that I wanted other musicians on the album that I wanted to listen to. So I went with the Vital Tectones, a fusion jazz supergroup.
Yes. The music stylings of three fantastic talents. We got the amazing bassist Victor Wooten, virtuosic guitarist Scott Henderson, of course Steve Smith, fantastic talent, longtime Carolina Panther. Had a couple years with the Ravens as well, and late in his career. But yeah. Just some good, talented people all around. Let's talk about some expectations. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I saw the name Victor Wooten, and I was intrigued. I looked up the name Vital Tectones, and I saw the word fusion. And then I was excited. Oh, yeah, I was excited. And then when I listened, oh man, this was a joy. This was just an absolute joy. Yes. I get the term music for musicians gets bandied about for this kind of thing. I'm not a musician. I'm not talented. But man, I enjoyed this. I feel like when people say things like they're overplaying, I feel like you're missing the trees for the forest. Yeah. And this was a damn enjoyable piece of fusion from start to finish.
Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I mean, to be honest, I only know a little bit of Victor Wooten, and that's from his work as a Flecktone. I'm aware that he and two other guys who played the same instrument did some stuff. I'm glad that we get to listen to the best bassist do stuff with the guy who played drums for Savage Garden. I
was wondering when that little nugget of information was going to come in.
I could not have told you where the other two were from, but I could tell you where old Victor's from. And also I got a note, like Victor Wooten, over there, like he's got 4 yin yangs on one sleeve and 1 on his chest, so you know it's a good album. Like you judge Victor Wooten's, like he wears the loudest shirts in music. He's like normally wearing some crazy blouse that's got like sequins and all sorts of crazy stuff on it. Yes. But like I was like,
if you want to talk about loud shirts, the first time I saw like Victor Wooten play in any video was that video from like Bass Day '98 where he was wearing that Marvel shirt. Like, and I'm pretty sure, like, God, it's just giant, all of the Marvel characters, and then just him playing that Norwegian wood cover he does. I was like, oh, I need more of this dude in my life.
Yeah, the dude, like, I forget which Flecktones live recording it was, but like he's got this vest on, and boy, it is the most vest.
Yeah.
It is the best.
I think I
vest.
know the vest you're talking about.
Yeah,
I do.
It's got
There's a-
colors they don't have names for on it.
Is that I think there's a picture on his Instagram with him wearing a tri-horn.
Yeah.
It's
You know, his
fantastic.
brother is Future Man, so like
Yeah.
weird things happen in that family. They all know how to dress.
But yeah, it's fantastic. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
To me, the first thing about this band that always kills me is like they made 2 great records and never played live shows as the Vital Tectones. Just fucking sad. They're 3 great musicians, and everything about their greatness I think is on full display on this record. Fusion jazz, I think, to me is wonderful because it does something that it just, when it's at its best, what it's doing is putting insane musicianship on top of like great grooves, and then like swinging them in and out of each other. So this is very, very, very much on the more rocky side of the fusion jazz spectrum. This is very far away from your grandmother's finger popping jazz music. But it's just intense from start to finish. And everybody gets their time to shine because you have musicians that are really great at what they do. So you can have that. When it's Henderson's time, Wooten and Smith have this like underlying like groove that they're always working with. It's not a simple groove because it's Steve Smith and Victor Wooten, but there's depth, there's intricacy, but it's still a groove. It's still something that you just feel that groove, and the guitar work just sits on top. When it's Wooten's time, you have
It's Wooten time.
It's Wooten time. Woot. You have Henderson and Smith like, God dang it, laughing now. You have Henderson and Smith like fade into the background. The range, I think, in this album of musicality from each musician for them changing styles, I think is really, really great. Like when you think of Victor Wooten, a lot of times you think of these like, when you think of like his solo work, especially, you think of like these crazy chords, these like crazy slap lines. But like the way he uses that motion to set up like these really simple walking grooves, and I say simple in like overall comparison to the rest of what Victor Wooten does. Simple. It's something that a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to play and can't. It's funny because like I told our old drummer, who's a big Vital Tectones fan, that we were going to do this album, that I was bringing this album. So I know he's listening right now. So I'm going to say that this album, like I said, our drummer tends towards insanely good, insanely tight drummers. Steve Smith is just a great dude behind the drum kit. It is very, to me, very obvious a student of the Buddy Rich school of drumming, which is you're going to do intricate stuff and it's going to be layered and it's going to be weird, but it's going to be tight. And you have that where he is doing these insane fills, but it's never overshadowing. It's always exactly what the word is. It's a drum fill. When you have that guitar note sort of hanging there with a little bit of empty room, the drum comes in and does something crazy. And I think it takes a smart drummer to know when to do that. And then you have Scott Henderson, who is just an insanely great guitarist. Some of the stuff he's doing is just weaving in these melodies, which I think are really, really good. I'm the rhythm section guy. I'm less the guitar guy. So I'll leave that to the other dude that might know a little bit more about guitar in the room. But I think Scott Henderson is no slouch on this album. And it's just everything mixes in such a very, very cool way on this album. It's just, I can't speak higher of this record than I am right now.
Steve Smith also give us some nice fantastic years with the Miami Heat early into his career, alongside Ronnie Cycli and the like.
We get it. It's the most generic ass name of all time. We got it.
There. I got my shit in. I'm done. Speaking of getting your shit in,
You're shit posting in the middle of a podcast. I don't understand.
Dave,
It's his podcast.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
do
our
it all the
podcast.
time on mine.
Barely my podcast. David, how would you describe this album musically?
PD Rave, I'm just going to lay one thing out right now. It seems like the recording of this podcast seems to be a little choppy, a little chippy. It seems to be bouncing in and out, kind of like this album. The tightness is accentuated by the musicality. You will hear time changes and beat changes all over this. However, it is nothing like recording a podcast when Skype doesn't want to cooperate and sometimes freezes on you. These guys all know exactly what they're doing at all times, and it is an absolute joy from start to finish. The gentlemen all involved have already been called out, and I'm going to mention what I liked the most later when we talk about the specific tracks. But just from start to finish, it was just a joy. I found myself listening to this album when I was doing cardio, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this for cardio when I was on the stationary bike for like 35 minutes. This album literally gave me energy and gave me life that I did not expect it to. I really loved this album more than I even expected to. And it's hard for me to really do a deep dive because I'm still just kind of, I've got my face down in the plate and I'm still just wolfing it down with a spoon. I'm enjoying it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I will absolutely be going back to this.
Getting 2 scoops of Wooten.
Scoop,
And
yum,
Henderson.
yum.
And Steve Smith.
Exactly.
And Tweak.
And
He just
Tweak.
busted into the fucking room like he
Tweak,
owns
what
this
does
place.
Tweak think about Victor Wooten?
It's a cat.
It's not
That's
just
one
any
hep
cat.
Cats
cat.
dig fusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
That's
for
one-
our audio listeners, there
Hey,
was a
hey,
kitten.
hey,
So go to
Edie,
YouTube
Edie.
and check it out.
Petey. Would you say that it's a jazz cat?
Yeah, it's one hep cat. Brett.
Hepcat's a ska band.
Yes. Fair enough.
Okay. I will just say this album does not get into a hurry.
Yeah.
You get songs that hit the nearly 10-minute mark. It's one of those albums. There's a lot of different things going on in this album. Like it's not just a straight up like, like Schofield era, fusion era, like thing going on where everybody's trying to make their guitars sound like a synthesizer and their synthesizers sound like guitars. That you get like some other sounds, injected in. You get like a Stevie Ray Vaughan, an obviously Stevie Ray Vaughan inspired like blues track. You get
That would be Dr. He.
you get a bebop jam, and you get a not quite Alan Holdsworth Metal Fatigue era, but almost fusion track. It's all pretty technically mind blowing. These are waters that I have swam in before, but I don't think this album is casually listenable. Like, this is an album that is unlike a lot of modern music, not a type of music where you are in it for the earworm, the hook, that kind of thing. You're in it to be like, melt my face off by doing things with your thumb, Vic. It does that. The lack of lyrics in an entire album places all the focus of melody on the guitars, they did okay. It worked out. I think this album did fine without any lyrics. These are people who obviously know what they're doing. Things go places on this album. They do some pretty neat stuff with tempo changes. There's one song that's just like a constant shred that doesn't go anywhere for the entire song. There's some things on here that are probably not universally palatable, but this is kind of the thing that I was into. So I had an okay time with it.
This is definitely you're getting into some fusion is nerdy ass like fusion goodness, like it is.
We aren't ending on the root, the fifth, the nothing. We're doing inverted chords and like making it sound kind of bad, but in the best way.
Exactly. And we might go to 13. We're gonna go to 13.
We're gonna add that 13 along with the 9 and the 11. We're gonna flat that 5.
Just gonna nod and smile. Drew,
you better flat that 5.
Drew,
minor that third, motherfucker.
Are we just doing this so the 3 other listeners we have that aren't squiggles are real confused?
Yes.
I mean, if you're listening to this album and you're me,
if you're listening to this album, you probably
too.
Already get some of that, so it's fine.
I mean, this album is above and beyond, way beyond like the technical skills of anybody I know, like to perform. But the music behind it is, I can't keep up with this shit. These guys are like you've got probably the best bassist on the planet, alive or dead, playing bass on this album. Yeah. So it's a hoot.
It's a hoot and a half.
Where Brett says he says he can't keep up, I'm just like, wee.
Yeah, blissful ignorance is a fantastic thing. It's a bass guitar. I don't fucking know how they do those things.
Like,
they've only got 4 strings and they're doing like, what's that weird ugly chord you're playing?
I was trying to I just picked up bass guitar and I was like, you don't play chords on this? And then like the drummer showed me like some of like Victor Wooten stuff. And I was like, oh, never mind, I'm wrong.
You ever plug this thing into a wah pedal?
Yeah. But yeah,
we're just making music.
Yeah, Drew. What would be some of the key tracks? Let's break it down. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
I'm going to take a step back and just say, in case anybody was worried that I didn't hear a one step beyond joke in there that I could have made, I did hear it and I couldn't make it because we were too busy bullshitting. Yes. So Crash Course. You open with a 7-minute song. You goddamn best not miss. And you see the 3 on the cover and you decide to jump into this because you're like, that looks like a good group. Let's just dive in. Let's just see what this is. And then you get this like crunchy guitar in your face. And then it transitions to this like sort of almost like ethereal guitar riff with like this chugging bass groove behind it. Like, what? Like, you're looking around thinking you got punked. You're like, what is... Okay. And you're just on the ride. The entire song, I think the riffs meld together seamlessly. You always come back to that groove. The movements in the song, I think, are really beautifully done. It's sort of the jazz idea that's best. They named the first track. I just looked up at the picture and I saw what PD was laughing at. I was confused for a second. It's like, is he laughing at something? There's a tail behind. I gotcha. But they titled the first song Crash Course because that's what you're getting into what these guys are, is a goddamn crash course. 2 for 1. Yeah, let's just let Victor be Victor for a few. Let's just air that shit out. And the dude's one of the best ever. If you don't think he's the best, you can't deny he's in the top echelons of bass players. And then lie detector. What effect was Brett? What effect was on that guitar? 'Cause it sounded nuts.
A little bit of chorus, and
It sounded more.
It's a thing. I can point you to YouTube videos.
It was weird and it was cool and I liked it a lot.
Tutorials.
And you end on something that's like you don't question their ability at that point. And they don't really care about it. They're putting it all out on Front Street there. Destroy people's dreams. It's raw ability in its purest form. Like
Yes.
they go out there, they kill the track, and it's just it.
Killing it. David, what will be some of the key tracks for you?
First of all, Dr. He. Highly recommended if you are a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan in Double Trouble. Because, oh man, Scott Henderson let his Stevie Ray Vaughan fan flag fly on this track. Also, King Twang. It's exactly what it says. And it is a jam and a half.
Name of my next restaurant I'm opening.
Yes.
Love it. I love it.
Yes. King Twang would
I'll just throw it out there, just because I enjoyed all of this. Giant Steps.
Mm-hmm. Like King Twang is a great name for a restaurant or barbecue sauce.
I mean, everything yeah. We'll continue. We're not going down the twang hole.
Twang. The twang hole. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Yo, Snake Soda. The song kind of cuts loose right from the start. You get a solid groove where, the bass and the guitar are sort of going back and forth. The guitar is in the mix and in your face, but like if you hang down in the low end, down where the hurts live, there's some Victor Wooten stuff going on, like, the bass chords, like we mentioned earlier, and kind of the weird, he does the licks. It's like, I'm going to do like a quadruplet into like the slide in a bit. It's Victor Wooten shit. He's doing some Victor Wooten shit. The guitar is got that like almost can't be real, like arena rock overdrive with the slight amount of chorus. And like it's just like cutting loose the whole time. Dr. He, as was mentioned earlier, this is a Stevie Ray Vaughan song. Like, I'm going to do this lick, but I'm also going to like strum every single string. And I'm going to do it in a chunk kind of way. But it does have some of the, the very like I'm bouncing from like scale and mode, that I'm playing this weird scale in a weird way, and I'm finishing the lick on a somewhat weird note in the scale. Stevie didn't do that, but the song probably wouldn't exist without him. And Giant Steps, as a guy who, in the world of jazz, 60s bebop is the music that I enjoyed to play and to listen to. It opens up with the slide octaves on a reverbed out guitar, or as it was once called, the Naptown sound. Victor comes in and, goes where he wants to. Like, you have like this guitar and drums are doing their thing. And then like you'd say, hey, Victor Wooten, we're playing an old bop song. And he's like, whatever. And he starts doing Victor Wooten shit.
Cool.
and then they go back to doing the bebop thing. And it's kind of fun. It's like, yes, those are walking bass lines. Yes,
they're
technically.
Yes.
From a technical standpoint.
That's a walking bass line, but that's not the way that's not the way old Charlie Mingus was walking. And lie detector. Yes, this is like grimy, almost Alan Holdsworth fusion metal. But it has the beat is like late 90s Sega arcade shooter. Like you walk into the GameWorks.
That's what I was hearing on that song.
You're just waiting to hop on a jet ski, like outrun something, or it's like that weird era where everything is, but you've got the dude just shredding the entire time over it with like sometimes without a wah pedal, but the whole time it's that tone. It's that genre, like fusion metal, like the reason why Eddie Van Halen did all that boodle doodle doodle doo stuff is because he was listening to shit like this that was in the mid to late 70s, and it's all got that weird sound like a Les Paul that's going through something that wasn't made to play guitar and like pushed to the absolute limit, and it's running on 50 hertz and 200 some. It's there's a weird sound to all of this stuff that's really bright and weird, and that's just the tone. The playing style is so it's so technical, but it's sometimes sour sounding, but the people who are playing it are technically doing the math. Yes, those scales work with this progression. Like, yes, that fits in, and even if it doesn't, fuck it, it's jazz.
It's there.
Like, we did it anyway. And I, there's some stuff that listening to this took me back to the time when I was trying to keep up with that genre of music, like with my brain. It's difficult.
There has to be a T-shirt already that says "Fuck it, it's jazz."
I mean, there's probably a man who's 85 years old who got a Redbubble account just for.
Yes.
I now want. I was going to say I want to get a Redbubble account and make me a shirt that says "Eat, Sleep, Jazz, Repeat."
Yes.
On it.
And on the back it says "China don't care."
China don't care. China don't give no fucks. China don't care.
Kind of catch these progressions.
Progress.
Yes. Let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts on this fantastic album. David, what would be your conclusion on Vital Tectones?
In summation, I want this injected into my veins. Here's what I'm going to do for everyone else that enjoys this album. I'm going to recommend a band for the folks at home called Niacin. They are a fusion trio, except instead of the guitar, it is a Hammond B3. And they are a trio consisting of Dennis Chambers on drums, John Novello as the keyboardist, and bassist Billy Sheehan of 80s rock band Mr. Big, Sons of Apollo, and I think he played for David Lee Roth for a while. But yeah, Niacin. If you enjoy this, I recommend the band Niacin. Check them out.
Maybe we'll talk about them in the future.
If you listen to enough, you can pass a drug test.
Yes. Brett, how would you conclude on this album?
Not everybody is going to be into this, but that's because they're wrong. No, this is advanced music for not advanced people. It's for people that could get. I mean, it's not super accessible. There are a lot of people that listen to this and be like, "What the fuck are they even trying to do?" It doesn't sound musical at times. It doesn't sound. It's not harmonious. But it's not as bad as it can get. This isn't complete out there fucking free verse noise jazz.
Can't stand freeform jazz. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean,
not as masturbatory as it could be.
Yeah, it's not meme jazz.
There's not a guy hooting a horn. Also, that makes it like I'm gonna hold this note for like 15 minutes. Like, yeah, there's not that. And as somebody personally, I very much enjoy like the jazz that I like are like jazz standards, like bebop versions of jazz standards, and blues and folk songs that have been they put into a tuxedo and make it look and sound like it was originally jazz. This is a little past what I like things to, have a nice walking bass line and be groovy, but not just be a blues progression. This is a little beyond that. This is more like, it's big dick contest, the music. And I'm glad that this exists because, that's kind of probably the best bass work you could get, especially at the time. Like this stuff sounds like technically modern, where the bass guitar we have progressed from where this came from. The fucking melt your face has gotten even more melty, and your face has become more like Total Recall. Fucking yeah. So. This is totally a fucking soft pitch, slow pitch down the middle for me at least. But maybe your grandpa's into this shit.
Yeah.
This ain't Chromeo. This ain't Hulk Rules.
Yeah. This is.
But it's good. It is very good.
It's good. It might be a little
it's delicious.
It's good, and it may feel like homework to some, but it's real good.
It's harder than the Flecktones,
yes.
which has a banjo in it.
Yes.
God.
Yeah. Also the
hi Squiggles. How you doing?
Also the holding a note on the horn for 15 minutes reminded me of that one episode of Mad About You of all of a sudden.
Oh my god.
I haven't thought about Mad About You since the 90s.
Was that about the time that Kenny G
this is the
held
first time
it was literally that was the plot line. Yeah, it was literally
Yeah.
that one that I think it's the brother, Paul Reiser's brother, character's brother, gets jealous of Kenny G and like says, "Oh, I could do that," and he tries it and does it on New Year's Eve, and it's like, God, Mad About You. I love that.
Yeah. Helen Hunt, America's Sweetheart.
That was a fantastic sitcom, and I wish I could get that on DVD or Blu-ray. That being said, back to this album. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
This was alluded to a little bit. Fusion jazz very much gets lumped in with the it's musicians' music. You're only gonna dig it if like you've played a lot, and I don't think that's necessarily the case with a lot of that type of music. I don't think it's necessarily the truth with a lot of those type of musicians. I think that there is stuff to like for people who don't necessarily play.
There are like 100 people on this planet that could play this music.
Yeah, like, and it's something that like. I can't.
I am one of those people that absolutely loves this.
Right.
Loves
and
it.
There's a lot of depth to it. And there's something to be said about like seeing some of the great musicians at the top of their game join forces and do something crazy. I don't think I've brought Thunder yet, but eventually I probably should. Did I bring Thunder?
Sure.
I can't remember. We've been doing this for a while.
Currenting.
There's an album out there.
No confirmation on whether Drew has brought the Thunder.
No, he has not brought the Thunder. I would have remembered what the hell that was.
This bassist and two other insanely great bassists that are in the talks for being the greatest bassists ever, and they're all playing together.
I have
that
checked
type of music.
the doc, and he has not brought the Thunder.
I have not brought the Thunder. Maybe I'll do that sometime. But this album is something that like this was brought into my life because I heard it talked about by a bassist I respect, our drummer's father, and the band I was in. Our drummer's father was a big fan.
Band's name was our drummer's father.
Yes, the band's name was our drummer's father. And then, of course, the drummer for the band I used to be in, and he hearing them talk about bands like this, I was like, I should probably listen to them because they probably know what they're talking about. And then I did, and I was like, oh yeah, they know what they're talking about. There's different levels of getting into this type of music. It is not something you just put on and sort of like, it's not a, hey, I'm going to dance and have fun in my car sort of record. It's like, oh, this is some music. Like, this is some musicians doing some music right now. And I happen to like what they do, and I hope they do more of it. There's been every like 5 years a rumor comes up and like, hey, maybe the Vital Flecktones are going to put out VTT3, and then like nothing ever comes of it because of course it doesn't. But they could
have part 3 of anything. It's just
I need more Mark Knopfler and Chet Atkins. This stuff is lightning in a bottle. Sometimes just be happy with the amount of Temple of the Dog that you have.
Exactly.
Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened. I have to keep reminding myself that a lot recently.
Yes, exactly. Fantastic stuff. But yeah, Vital Flecktones. 3 great guys making great music together.
Savants.
Yes.
Genius.
Yes.
At a high level. Playing at a high level.
Playing at elite level.
Elite.
Yeah. Let's get down to our main event of the evening. Get our haiku reviews. What we've all been waiting for. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. David, what is your haiku?
A rock fusion jam. Fun moments and songs abound. Melt my face, Daddy!
Yeah. Brett, what is your haiku?
Throwing a meatball. 3 dudes who are really good. What's there not to love?
A meatball. Hey, that's a spicy meatball.
That's right. It's a whole ball of meat.
All right, my haiku. 3 talent machines gathered to flex their muscles and get their shit in. Now, Drew, what is your haiku?
Looking over this, I realized the word music is in all 3 of my lines. 3 great musicians. Musical insanity. Musician's record.
Yes, exactly. That is, of course, our thoughts on Fantastic Album.
Thoughts?
Our thoughts of the
Our
thing with
thoughts.
our thoughts on Vital Flecktones. Smith, Henderson, Wooten.
Of Woot.com fame.
Yes, of Woot.com fame. Fantastic, talented artist. Go check it out. It's a fantastic album. Do it. You can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Follow along at home. Do your due diligence and your due diligence, as it were. On the Spotify playlist will be next week's record. And barring a guess, which we haven't really booked anybody, so probably nobody. But barring a guess, it'll be my record. And I'm going to follow up I'm gonna do the 1-2 punch, bring it back to K-pop again, and finally, kind of after some distance away from its release, bring out the late Junghyun's posthumous album release, Poet Artist. We had a little, during our review of his first album, his at that time only album, we had the thought, I was like, we thought we wouldn't get more music from him. Turns out we were wrong. So look forward to that next week. But that is next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Please Call Me DJM. Brett is at HIBBARD. Drew is at XTruciferX. I'm at PD Radio. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com, RecordBreakersPodcast.gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and other places. You can find us everywhere you can find podcasts. Find us out there. The RSS feed's on the website. Like, share, do all the things. Subscribe, hit all the buttons. Until next
Smash
time.
that bell.
Yes. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Seriously, the band is called Niacin. I think you'll really like them.
Stay off the weed.